They say nobody really pays attention at the shooting range, not unless you're making noise or showing off. But that morning, let me tell you, everything about the place changed the second Commander Alexander Hayes walked in, or, well, nobody called her Commander. Then she just looked like one of those tired school teachers on a Saturday. You know, the kind with a faded baseball cap yanked so low it might as well have been a mask. Carrying a scuffed-up case, not talking to a soul, making herself small, invisible, and yet you felt this hush fall over the lanes, even if you couldn't say why, and I swear that's the first red flag. Right there, when even Frank, the old Navy guy who runs the range, stops pretending to read the classifieds and starts watching her hands instead of the targets. See, Frank's got this radar, you know what I mean? 20 years in submarines, another decade running this place. He can spot a wannabe or a pro before the first round leaves the barrel. But Hayes didn't fit either box. She didn't strut or swagger, didn't size up the crowd, just set her gear down, checked the wind with her cheek, not a flag, not a gadget, just her own skin, and started firing no hesitation. No thrill at her own impossible accuracy, just this steadiness like she could have been. Making coffee at home instead of putting 5 shots through a dime at 300 yards, and that's when the whispers started, right? Somebody in the next lane, probably a weekend hero, leans over to Frank, voice low but eyes wide. Hey, you see that woman down there? She's making shots that don't make sense, and I haven't seen a badge or even a membership card. Now, Frank shrugs, but you can see he's paying attention, and maybe that's what brings in the deputies, not with sirens, not with drama, just 2 young guys, uniforms too crisp for this time of morning, trying real hard to look like they know what they're doing. Ma'am, we need to see your ID and your permit for that weapon. One of them says, hand hovering way too close to his holster, like the script told him to be careful, but his gut didn't buy it. And Hayes, she just looks up, cool as lake, water, and says, I don't have those with me. No wallet, no phone, just a plain key card and a little notebook full of numbers nobody can read. She doesn't resist, doesn't argue, lets them cuff her hands behind her back, which I swear rattled those boys more than if she'd started yelling. Down at the county jail, the whole place goes weird. She gives them nothing, no name, no story, just those calm, steady eyes the sheriff's people run her prints, check the database, call the feds, but the system's down, no hits, no record. Just a scar on her wrist, not the kind you get from a fall or a kitchen knife. More like the rope burn you get dropping from a Blackhawk at midnight. Not that anyone says it out loud, the public defender. Poor guy looks about ready to quit, muttering about terrorism charges just because nobody can figure out who she is. And through all of it, Hayes is like stone not cold, not defiant, just unshaken. Like she's waiting for a bus, not an arraignment, but the next morning, the whole county courthouse is packed, folks from town, a couple of press with nothing better to do, and, weirdly, a handful of suits you never see in this part of Maine, not unless something serious is about to blow the judge. Harmon looks irritated, like she's thinking about lunch instead of justice, until the doors swing open in this Navy. Admiral walks in full dress, medals everywhere, doesn't say a word, just hands a sealed envelope to the bailiff, who passes it to the judge. You could watch the whole mood in that room change. I mean, veterans in the gallery shot to their feet. The judge goes from bored to rigid, and as she reads whatever's in that envelope, her face goes white, then gray, then something almost like fear. All charges dismissed, she says, voice sharp as glass. This case is classified. And the sound of that gavel might as well have been a bomb. People start shouting, snapping photos, but none of it's louder than the Admiral turning to Hayes and saying, on the contrary, Commander, the Navy apologizes to you. Yeah, that happened. You should have seen the faces. The word Commander hit everyone like a slap, and suddenly all the pieces snapped together. The posture, the discipline, the constant scan for exits, military to the bone outside. Reporters are swarming, but the Admiral just shrugs them off. Special operator, exemplary service, details classified. That's all he gives. The sheriff stammers, wants answers. But the Admiral just tells him, if anything, Sheriff, you ought to thank her. Then you get this twist. Detective Wells, the one who processed her at the jail, steps up, nervous, still embarrassed by the whole thing. And Hayes just looks him dead in the eye, says, you were doing your job. No grudge, no pride, just a kind of tired respect, like she's seen 100 people try to do the right thing in the wrong place. 2 weeks later, Wells gets a call from the Admiral himself, inviting him to some closed-door thing at Norfolk. Says, you might want to be there, and Wells almost hangs up, thinking he'll never live down the handcuffs, but he goes. Inside, it's all uniforms and stone faces, no cameras, and they lay it out. Hayes, first in her class at Coronado, one of the first women in Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Most of it blacked out, 11 months undercover, 16 threats eliminated, a port attack stopped cold. And when her cover was blown, she let herself be arrested to protect operational security. Sometimes you have to commit to the cover, even when it's inconvenient, she tells Wells afterward, and for once he believes her. After that, life goes on, right? Or at least that's what you tell yourself. Wells gets recruited into NCIS. Suddenly he's the guy bridging the gap between local cops and special ops. His first real job, thanks to Hayes months later. He's back in Maine, running new protocols, making sure nobody ever cuffs the wrong operator again, and the range, the same old place where it started, turns into something else, a sort of quiet testing ground. A waypoint for people who only stand out if you know what to look for. And just when everything starts to feel normal again, guess who walks back in Commander Hayes? Hair a little longer, eyes even sharper, asking Wells to join a new joint task force. You know why we need you? She asks, that half smile back. Because you did the right thing, even when it didn't feel right. Now the range is more than a place for target practice. It's this low-key recruiting ground, a place where the next generation of invisible guardians find each other without a word. Frank, the old Navy man, spots a new shooter, young woman, too good for her backstory. So he makes a call, gets looped into a network he didn't know existed, just a pair of eyes watching for the extraordinary hiding in plain sight. That's the thing most people never notice. Most people never realize how close they are to someone who's keeping the shadows at bay, making sure the world doesn't fall apart on their watch. Commander Hayes moves on, changes names, missions, faces, but her legacy sticks around in people like Wells and Frank, folks who serve in uniform or out, sometimes just by paying attention when nobody else does. So now, I gotta ask, if you were in their shoes, what would you do? Is it right to keep these secrets, to let heroes walk among us, invisible and uncelebrated? Or should the truth come out, even if it puts everything they protect at risk? Let me know down below, because honestly, the most important work in this world happens where nobody's looking, and I think that's worth talking about.